Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Alfred, and I'm here with my good friend Emmanuel Duse. Today we continue our regular discussion on the Ghanaian housing market, and today we are dealing with a very important topic, which has to do with obtaining a building permit in Ghana. And we think that this is a very important topic to explore today because if you see around, right, there are a lot of buildings with that big red mark, right, stop or produce permit. And then we've also observed a lot of properties that have already been demolished. So today we thought it could be better to maybe educate ourselves a bit more on what the processes we need to follow to acquire the required permit to build so that we do not face any future demolition. So again, you are welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you, by the grace of God. I hope you are doing good too as well.
Yeah, yeah, good, good.
We thank God.
Okay. So yeah, maybe today we just go straight into the topic, right? So for me, I see a lot of demolition around, right? And then also some of this crossback that says stop or produce permit, right? So my first question is that with regards to the demolition, is it that people don't really have the building permit, and that is why their properties are demolished, or there is some other issues that goes beyond just the permit? What is your view on this?
Yeah, well, I can't say scientifically we've been able to do a research into that, but from experience, I think
Mhm,
there are two cardinal issues, and it might not only be the fault of persons that are seeking to build on lands who
mhm,
are required to get building permits. I think it's an issue of the complexities that have been generated with the processes in trying to secure a building permit
mhm.
and the low level of confidence that the general public have in the processes that have been enshrined and that has been mandated by law for these local government authorities to actually implement. So, if people
Mhm.
for over some time have been able to develop inertia for knowing that I can build on any land, and whenever issues of building permit come, just as you are saying, they write on my building produce permit. I go to them, see them, settle them, and then continue to build. So the low level of public confidence in the process of securing building permit, which will not be necessarily the stubbornness of the general public, but also the compromised position of local government in trying to police this process. I
Okay.
think these have been the dual bane of our property industry, and that has
Okay.
actually affected it till date. Yeah, so it's too prone.
Mm. So let's go straight into obtaining the permit, right? Are there
Yeah.
really required procedures that one needs to follow, right, to really get a permit from whichever quarters? Where are the I mean, where do we need to contact if we need to obtain a permit? What are the things that we need to do? So probably can you take us through some of the processes we need to follow and then the offices that we need to consult going forward with regards to procuring a permit for a building?
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So, just as we keep discussing, we need to hinge this discussion on the
Mhm.
various legislative provisions that have been granted by law to
Okay.
regulate this. Yeah. So, we may be looking about three different laws over years that have actually been the basis for this particular process as a requirement to build. And we could look at the Town Act, the Town Act. I think that one is more stricter than even the Local Government Act. The Local Government Act is also another instrument that also talks about building permits. And then we have the National Building Regulation Act. That one too is there and also enforces the issue about securing permits. Generally, permits are supposed to be secured as a prerequisite for
Mhm.
guiding the development of a particular locality or a town. So
Are this sorry to cut you, are this act related to the act 1036 we discussed, or these are separate acts on their own
these are
accord?
quite separate acts. These are
Okay.
separate acts. The Act 10, 36 deals with land as in land, the processes of land and everything. But here we are talking about you using the surface of the land in
Okay.
terms of trying to build. So these are the regulations that actually encompasses it. And most of these regulations have been left in the hands of the local government authority. So uh, every local has the way that they go about it, but generally, the law has a procedure that every local assembly ought to respect and ought to abide by. So that is what it is. And then, just as I'm saying, that the essence of this particular permit is not for, as it were, revenue generation. Because when we get to the fines and those things, you can see that the purpose of the framers of this legislation was actually an intent to be able to plan our towns such that people do not build indiscriminately, people do not put any wall anywhere that they want, but people actually abide by government projected planning of towns and cities. So, but over time, you have seen that local governments have used this particular provision as a revenue generating medium. And that is actually what is defeating it, because the essence of the act, the essence of securing building permit, has nothing to do with revenue. So if you look at some of the acts those days that were very specific, you can see 100 cities, 50 cities as a charge, 30 cities as a charge for reform. And you can see that monetization of the process ought to have been discouraged. But over the time, because local government is looking for mediums of revenue, they have decided to turn the objective of this particular thing. And that has been one of the bane of this whole thing. So, that said and done, the processes that are required for one to actually get a building permit. And I must emphasize that you don't start building before you go and get a building permit. You don't get gravel to your site, you don't get blocks to your site, you don't do planning, you don't dig foundation even
Uh-huh.
before you go for. But that is
So
what we see.
at what time do you
In fact,
need
the
to?
moment you conceive that you
Uh-huh.
actually want to build, then you should be looking for
So
the
that it should
building
it should
permit.
even start, right, because you mentioned that, for example, for all the district assemblies, right, they have
Yes,
already earmarked a place for building. So it
for
means that
residential, for
before you
commercial,
even
yeah.
start to get a plot, right, you should even consider all those things, right?
Exactly, doctor. That is how it's supposed to be. Because when we go through the processes, you will see that there are requirements of you doing soil test. There are requirements of you doing compatibility test in terms of structural test and everything. And if you have already dug your foundation or you have pillars on the land, what would be the essence of you doing structural test and everything, especially when the place is water prone or something like that? But these were meant to advise you and also to position your property in such a way that it becomes a durable investment for yourself and for the local government in terms of developing the town. So that if you have a water prone area, they are able to recommend to you and then your contractors the way and manner in which the building ought to be. In recent times, we've had news of story buildings that have broken down, walls that have broken down, and even killed people that were working on the same building. And it's because people have not taken due cognizance of these processes, and it's giving us a lot of processes. So, first of all, the moment you see that you want to build, you ought to contact the local government, and you have to do that in writing. You have to write to the local government authorities and tell them that I intend to build. Other ways, they have been able to make it the system very, very simple. And then instead of writing, you can go to the local government unit and then you can tell them that I want to pick a form for building permit. So there are forms that you are supposed to fill for building permit, and it will require you to do a lot of things, all for your good. I mean,
Okay.
none of
So
them
just
is.
so before you go on, right? So for this particular thing, right, we could do it at every local government level, right? We don't need to come to Accra for these things, right?
No, no, no. Every local level. As for
Okay.
building permit, it has been decentralized to the extent that every local level, every municipal has a district or municipal engineer. They are the people that we deal with mostly, or the building regulators. They call them sometimes building regulators. So these are the people that you'll be dealing with. So there are about four primary documents that they will require from you as a builder. Apart from the building permit form, you'll be required to attach your deed of indenture, your title to the land, and then the architectural design that you'll be using in terms of your building infrastructure. These are the four basic things that you'll be required to attach to your application when you are submitting. So, a completed form, you have your deed of indenture, you have your title to the land, and you have your architectural design as you want your build. So these are the four primary documents that you're supposed to do. Sometimes they can tell you to bring further and better particulars where they'll be looking at the structural drawings, the structural calculations, the fire report, the mechanized or service drawings, the geotechnical report or structural integrity report, the environmental permit, the environmental permit mostly will deal with commercial buildings, where the building is supposed to be used for a commercial purpose, maybe a factory, and they want to look at the traffic impact assessment. How are people going to assess the building? What is the impact of the building on the traffic in the major lanes within the locality? And then the hydro logical services that are also available. You'll be required to get all these things. Now, those ones I just mentioned are required in extra circumstances where the building that is going to be built is supposed to be a commercial or a public building. When it's a commercial or a public building, they require some of these things. How are people going to exist from the building? How are you going to assess water? How is it going to impact on traffic? How are people going to assess it? So, for instance, you are building a church. How are people bringing cars going to park there? Is there a provision for a parking space? How are they going to assess the church building and everything? And these things, primarily, doctor, just as you are saying, they are meant for the comfort and the convenience of the property owner, largely.
But I'm wondering, right, because of the architectural design, right, it could be quite expensive. Is it one of the
Yes,
things
yes,
that
yes,
put
yes.
people off, right, from
But of
going
course,
for it?
but doctor, why should you build when you don't have a design in hand? Yes, so an architectural design might also require, yes, and then you might have to contact a professional because
Yeah.
you are looking at a certified drawing that has
Hmm.
to have the stamp of a certified surveyor or architect or something like that. So that is also another one that. But these things I say are required mostly when you are doing a commercial building or a public building,
Okay.
and that
Okay.
I believe issues of finances shouldn't be problem. If
Hmm.
you are looking at building a church that is taking about 200 people, we can't compromise on the process. The
Yeah.
process will have
Yeah.
to be such that most of these things, the structural things that you are supposed to do, the pillars that you are supposed to do, the earmarks and everything that are there. Now, these things are all just ideas on paper. So you
Okay.
submit these things to them, they vet them for you, and then you are supposed to appear before a committee.
Hmm.
The committee will do the vetting, and then it will do something that we call the collaboration of technical findings.
Okay.
Because most of the documents that you have submitted are not just vetted by one institution, especially when it comes to commercial building. For instance, somebody wants to build a filling station. The person will require what we call the environmental assessment permit that will
Okay.
come from the Environmental Protection Agency, very
So
different from the.
when do you secure those environmental permit? Is it in the cost, right, of obtaining the building permit, or you have to get
Exactly, in
that?
the course of
Okay.
obtaining the building permit. So you
Okay.
remember I've told you that there are four basic documents that you initially submit. Now,
Hmm.
when they see the nature of your building, they will require certain extra documents. They will
Okay.
require certain extra particulars to help them make a decision. And that is why I'm setting an example that, for instance, if you are building a church, they will require something like a fire assessment. They will
Okay.
require something like a traffic assessment. Now, these things are taken from different people, and then they are put together. That is why they have to, at the end of the day, do something they call the collaboration of technical findings. They
Okay.
now have to come to the site and do site inspection.
Mhm.
They have to come to your site and do the site inspection, and that is done by the technical subcommittee of the various assembly. The various assemblies have some subcommittees that help them do their work, and then after that, they are now going to consider the statutory conditions for your application.
Mm.
Every particular building that you're supposed to do, especially if it is not residential, there are certain secondary requirements, like the way I told you. If it's a filling station, you need somebody to come and do environmental assessment. If it
Okay.
is a mining that you are going to do there, you are going to be drilling, you are going to be doing excavation, then you
Mhm.
need a minerals commission to also come and do their impact assessment. So these things are going to be done, and these are statutory requirements or
Mm.
things that are going to be done. Now,
So
the
is it, are you the one who would arrange all these things to be done, or the assembly will arrange these things for you and then you
yeah,
pay?
the moment you put in your application, the
Mhm.
assembly is obliged to follow these processes. So if they
Okay.
are coming to the site, they might call you for directions, and then you direct them to the site. They look
Okay.
at these documents because essentially you have submitted all the documents that they need to them, and they
Mhm.
have them in hand. So any other assistance that may be required of you, you will be then brought into the picture. Now, the
Okay.
assembly technical committee will now sit after all these things have been done and
Mm.
then take a decision. They take a decision to give you a permit. And that
Okay.
doesn't end there. Once they issue a permit for you, that is where you must notify the assembly within 48 days when you
Mhm.
want to start the building. So within 48 days that you have received the issuance of a building permit, that is
Mhm.
where you are supposed to communicate to them when you are supposed to start. And you do
Okay.
that officially.
So what
So
about, so if, for example, if the assessment is done, right, and
yeah,
it's finished today, but I want to build in 2 years time, I still have to inform them that okay, in 2 years time I'll be building. Is that the
yes. So
case?
within the
Okay.
48 days, you are
Mhm.
supposed to tell them that and write to them that within 2 years, I want to write. I want to do I want to build in 2 years time. But you
Okay.
see, most of these statutory assessment have time limit.
Okay.
If you decide to let them go through all these processes, this impact analysis, everything, and then you
Mhm.
are deciding to build in 2 years time, then
Yeah.
possibly you might have to do another assessment because
Okay.
the demography of the environment in which you are keep growing.
Might
You know the
change.
way
Yeah.
our societies are. Places that were not either to with a school, you get a
Mhm.
school there, you get residential facilities approaching and encroaching on the land and everything. So if you decide to wait for a very long time, I have not checked with the processes, but there is a tendency that the appraisal that was done will have to be reviewed again.
Okay.
And that means
But
that you
in
get
general, in general, do you have idea of the time, right? The time for which the permit is
no,
valid, like
normally
one
this
year? Okay.
statutory assessment should not be more than 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6
Okay.
months is ideal. I mean, 3 to 6
No,
months.
I mean, so after they grant you the permit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how long does it last before this permit can be revoked if you do not
Yes,
build
then
it,
I'm
right?
saying that it will not take more than 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
Yes, it will not take more than 6 months. Within 3 to 6 months, uh, I'm sure the assessment will have to be done again.
Okay.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. But anybody watching us can check the full details of our editorial on the building permit. We'll be putting it on our Elsin website, our editorial, and all this information that Doctor is asking will be actually fed into the article for your information. So you can chance on that and then read in detail.
Yeah.
Now, Doctor,
And
when
then
you get
also just to add, right? So for those listening to us, if you already have a question, right, you can also ask by writing a comment on our handles, and then we'll just read it and try to answer that for you. Yeah. Okay,
okay.
you can go ahead.
Okay, great. So what happens within the 48 days is that you
Mhm.
now write to the local government authorities and tell them when you are supposed to start. And that is why I'm saying that if you had if you were in the process of building already and you were halted, then it means that yes, you have to come back and then now inform them that these are the things that you're supposed to do, because the law requires the local government assembly, specifically the
Mhm.
building regulations inspector, to monitor the process of building in 5 different stages.
Okay.
Yes, there are 5 different stages that the building regulatory inspector must monitor the process of it. So
Mm.
you just don't receive a building permit, you go into building and you have no business with them. In fact,
Mm.
every stage of the building, there are 6 different stages of the building that you are supposed to receive commendation the um,
Mm.
from the local government authorities before you proceed. And those
Wow,
things are things.
interesting. Can you run us through those stages? That would be
Yeah.
very
So
interesting.
first of all, you have to let them come and see your trenches.
Mhm.
When you are digging the foundation, how deep the
Okay.
foundations are, they will have to be there to inspect it. So you give them a calendar of activity. Actually, this is
Okay.
the time I am going to dig my foundation. After I have dug my foundation, these are the times I'm going to put in the
Mhm.
pillars of the building. Now, this is time that I'm going to do the block works. The block works till they come in, the
Mhm.
lintel level and the flooring, the lintel level and the flooring till they come in.
Mhm.
And then when you are doing the metal roof work, the
Okay.
metal roof work till they come in. And then when you are doing the roofing, you
Mm.
actually get them to come in.
Do
And
they? Do
then
they?
when, yeah, so these are the
I'm
process.
wondering. Do they also inspect the kind of materials you use? Right. For
Exactly
example, in
the
the
point.
foundation.
Exactly. Yes. You know what? And in future we might be telling our audience what it takes to do a structural engineering drawing. In
Okay.
fact, it's a document that is a very technical document. It tells the contractor what type of metal rods to
Mhm.
use, how many inches of metal rods to use, how deep the foundation should be dug. It is a very detailed technical document.
Okay.
So it doesn't leave anything. It tells you the block inches that you are supposed to use. It tells you how to even mix the concrete.
Mm.
So the structural drawings is a very detailed one. And if people go by them, what happens these days is that people just do these things for the paperwork and go and do a
Yeah.
different. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we have had very tragic incidences that have happened in our country. We remember the famous Malcolm building that went
Yeah.
down some years back, and a whole lot of things. And people, when you don't do certain things right, especially when they are public buildings, they put
Mhm.
a lot of people at risk. And that is why we want to call on the stakeholders, especially those that have been mandated, to look at these processes, to also look at the humanitarian aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's not a financing means, it's not a revenue generating means.
Mhm.
It is actually a role that has been given to the local assemblies to help protect lives, because shelter is a basic need.
Yeah.
People will go and do all manner of works, and that is where they rest. People will reconvene in shelters. People will do business in shelters. So this is a basic need of society. So
Mm.
we are required to make sure that we get them to build properly and then to comply. So when you are able to go through this process of monitoring, what happens is that they issue you a certificate of inhabitation. I doubt
Okay.
how many houses in Ghana here have gone for a certificate of inhabitation,
But
because
that is after the building is
that is
completed,
after
right?
the building. You
Okay.
don't go into the building or you
Mhm.
don't take occupancy of the building when you have not been issued a certificate of inhabitation.
Mm.
So a certificate of inhabitation will have to be issued to the builder or to the person, the homeowner, to be able to occupy these things. Now,
Okay.
these things have been structured in such a way that if a person is able to go through all these processes, then the issue of these unannounced demolitions, and whenever it's a rainy season, a demolition must come, people get themselves in trouble, and people's investment over years are just ruined overnight.
Yeah.
A
Mm.
building that you have sweat so much to put together, especially for people that are outside the country who entrust some of these projects into the hands of people. And You'll be there, you didn't know these processes have not been properly done with, and
Yeah.
all that. And that is what we've been doing for our people when it comes to the homeland project. You have your project, it is running in Ghana here. You know your people are trusted and everything. But what you can contract Elsin to do is that we monitor and vet the processes for you so that some of these requirements you do not flout them. And if you are able to comply by these processes, then you know your investment is secured, your investment is safe. But if you don't go through these processes, just as we say in law, he who seek equity must come with a clean hands. Your hands are tainted. You can't seek equity. They will just break down your building, and then you have nowhere to go. But that is one phenomena I want to address, that the local government authority do not have any right in law to just go about and be demolishing buildings and be saying produce permit and everything. In fact, when you look at section 44 of the local government act, it gives us a procedure of notifying somebody who is in breach of a building permit. And they say that you must write officially to the person, and that writing must be served on the person. The person must receive service. You don't just go and when people are not there, you use red paint, paint their building, and another day you come, or maybe you go and take a notice somewhere, go and paste it in the area, and then overnight you come and demolish it. That is unlawful. That is lawlessness. The rule that was held in the case of Randolph versus Accra City Council. Those days, Accra Metropolitan was called City Council. This case was in 1975. And the court was very clear. The court said that no government authority, local government, has the sole right to go demolishing building without the express permission of a court. So whenever local government authorities see that people have flouted it, it is not within their right to just go demolishing. They must apply to the court, and the court can grant you that order to be able to proceed. And I believe that is what we ought to be doing in an era of rule of law where we respect the law, we know that the law is supreme, and we must not do that to ourselves. We must make sure that we all respect the law, and no institution of government is above the law. The executive is not about the law, and they must comply with these things. And that is what we need to know. So now, when you have been issued with a certificate of inhabitation, then you can be in your building. You can now have your building. And I bet you, if you go around close to most of the buildings we have, I dare to say that close to about 75% to 80% of the buildings we have
Yeah.
do not have any certificate of inhabitation. They don't. They
Uh,
don't. They
yeah,
don't.
I think that is true, right? And
Yes.
maybe that it might vary for different regions, right? But particularly those maybe further
Those in the
away from the
towns,
capital. Yeah.
I told you about the Towns Act because
Hmm.
they know that they might not bother people in the villages for it. So the intent was actually the planned cities where we will have a layout.
Hmm.
So if you look at the Towns Act give more harsher punishment than the Local Government Act. In fact,
Okay.
The Towns Act says that if you flout it, you are supposed to pay 6,000 Ghana cedis or go to jail for 6 months.
Okay.
But when it
For
comes
not
to the
for not having a permit for your
yes,
building, right?
yes,
Okay.
you can go to jail for 6 months or pay a fine of 6,000 Ghana cedis.
Hmm.
That is how it is. And then when you come to the Local Government Act, it says that you pay when you have been found to have breached the building permit and then you have commenced your building.
Hmm.
You pay a fine of 1,200. And any other day, I didn't add this. The Towns Act says that when you have breached and they have seen that you have breached it and they notify you, any other day, any other day that you continue to breach, that is when you have not come to rectify after you have been
Okay.
notified. Any
Hmm.
other day that is adding, you pay 1,200 per day, 1,200
Per
Ghana
day.
cedis per
That's
day.
a lot.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
it comes to Local Government Act, it says that when you have been found to have breached it, you pay 1,200 as a
Hmm.
penalty. And any other day that is added to it, you pay 12 cedis a day. 12 cedis a day. I think the local government act is more realistic. I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody has 1,000
No, but
two,
it's some of these things, right? Is also to deter people, not
no, but you see, you
necessarily.
don't make laws. One of my lecturers will say that you don't make laws that have the tendency to be disrespected. If not, you have put the law in a harm's way. Some laws cannot be obeyed. If somebody
Yeah,
has been
it's to deter, right? Because
yes
if you check,
against,
if you have knowledge of paying maybe this 6,000 a day, right, you might think
yeah,
twice going forward. But then I want us to look at the other aspect, right? So how long does it take, right? On a normal day of, yeah, all things be equal, how long does it take to get the permit? So that's one question I want to ask. The second one, um how much, right, is involved with obtaining the permit? So like,
yes,
of
yes.
course, with architectural design, it depends, right? But for example, are there fees you need
A
to pay
specific
at the
statutory
local?
fees.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, at the local government. Good.
Hmm.
So now that is where a lot of people have been strayed away. I
Hmm.
had a personal experience with a church project, and I think we invited a person to come and do an assessment. And the person told us that we'll be paying 50,000 for a building permit. I got taken aback. 50,000 for what? But I think the misconception here is that one of the prerequisites for laying an application for a building permit before the local government is that you
Hmm.
should have paid up your property rate. You should
Okay.
have paid up your property rate. So
But at,
if the
at that
people,
point, you don't have, right? You are talking about only the plot, right?
yes, the plot is a property, doctor.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So you
Uh,
pay
yeah,
tax
exactly. You
only
should
on
have
that.
paid
Okay.
up. Now, what happens is that
Hmm.
most of these applications have been in default. So if they look at your document, your deed of assignment,
Hmm.
your title to the land and where you have had, and the fact that since that period you have not actually paid anything, then
Okay.
that becomes a separate payment. But the
Oh,
disservice these local government authorities have done is that they don't distinguish the statutory fees from
okay.
the property rate that
Rate.
the
Yeah.
person is
Yeah.
supposed to pay.
Hmm.
Because just about a decade ago, just not long ago, the requirements that you were supposed to pay,
Hmm.
there are about three basic payments that you make when it comes to acquiring a building permit. The
Okay.
first one is the form that you buy, the building
Hmm.
permit form. Now you do a submission and a process document, and then you do a site inspection. These are the only three things that you do.
Okay.
You pick a form, and normally in those days, the form was 100 cedis.
Hmm.
You pay a processing fee, which was between 30 cedis and 50 cedis. And then you pay a site inspection.
Okay.
People will come to the site to actually inspect. And that was supposed to be 100 cedis.
Mm.
So, in fact, a decade ago, you were not supposed to spend more than 250 cedis for the process of your application to be laid.
Okay. Hmm.
That is when you have paid your property rate.
Your property. Okay.
Yes.
But
And
now
then,
what happens is that if you don't if you've not paid the property tax, right, then they have to accumulate all those, right?
in
Is
fact,
that it?
they will not even tell you that this is what it is, this is for this is what they lump it all. You see an assessor, you come and tell you that you are supposed this your building, in order for you to build it, you are supposed to pay 20,000. I mean, very frightening, very unreasoning, and it sets people aback. And these are some of the reasons why people have had to cut corners. People want to go through the back door, see people build overnight, and then you wake up just 1 week, you see a building behind your house, and it's just there like that. And
So
nobody,
I think this answered the one of the questions that somebody asked, right? I saw on the post. I think the person asked
yes, the person was talking about 3,000.
35, yeah, paying
Yes,
35,000.
yes,
Okay.
yes, about it. So
Okay.
that is the whole thing. And some of these people, because
Hmm.
they don't want to take receipt, because these monies must be receipted to you, and they must show you why they are taking it. You didn't buy any application form, you've not submitted any document to them. All you are doing is paying money in the name of securing a building permit.
But
What?
under normal circumstance, right? The property tax is paid to the tax revenue authority,
It's
right?
paid to
Not
the tax revenue, or maybe
okay.
it's paid at the point where you are supposed to do, and then annually, yes, you
Mhm.
pay, and then you show them that this is your proof of payment, and then you have done
So,
so.
yeah, so maybe the right thing to do is to ask the person to go and pay that this property tax, right? And the
Yes, but they
tax
will
revenue
not ask.
authority.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So most of these local government
Mhm.
assemblies are just looking for revenue, and if these revenues were even going to official, that is also another issue. Most of these things land in individual hands, and they dissipate them without any benefit to the state, or to the locality, as it were. So this is actually the process. And
Okay.
I know we've gone through the process for you. It might be very technical at this stage.
Mhm.
You might need some materials to read. So we'll refer to you. You can listen to our video, and then on our page, and then I'm sure we'll also be available to address any of your issues.
Mm.
Now,
So okay. Yeah, so
yeah,
the other question is how long? So the time, how long? And then maybe you can wrap up with like you just said, right? Is some are quite technical. Not everybody has time to do and
to
then you
do
can
that
tie in
exactly,
if where Elson is also able to help when it
to
comes
get it.
to these
Uh,
matters. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So just as I'm saying, this thing shouldn't take you more than 3 months. Realistically, between a month and 3 months, process should be able to go through. The committee at the local government level do not sit on individual applications. Obviously, they will lump the applications, and then within a month, they might sit 2 or 3 times within the month to vet the applications that have been done. Remember, there are a lot of investigations that have to go on. There are a lot of interagency consultations that have to be done to be able to vet and verify the documents that have been served them. So it takes 1 to about 3 months, and then these issues are properly sorted out. Now, when it comes to the critical issue, and that is where Elsin comes in, how do I get somebody who has the expertise, the time, and then the technical know-how to be able to assist in doing this thing? And that is where we bring in what we call the business interest representation. We are a real estate consultation that gives you a one-stop shop for all your needs. So you might not have the leisure of time, you might not understand the processes. You can engage Elsin, and then we go through the process of securing your building permit for you, regardless of where you have gotten to. People have had several cases. Some are even before court and stuff like that. We could help you to resolve some of these things.
Yeah, good that we've made it on time. But maybe before I let you go, right? So in general, do you have some interesting offers, right? Beside, I mean, helping clients with regards to obtaining the permit. Do you have some other
Yes,
interesting
yes.
offers
As
in general?
usual, we give you the best that we have in the market. Because of our cluster system, we have been able to get an array of properties that are there. As it stands now, we have a property that is located at the Millennium Estate, a four-bedroom house, newly built, and is going just for 480,000 Ghana cedis, and very, very interesting. We also have one very hot property, a story building, just about 65% complete, and the person is urgently in need of cash and is ready to offer it for about 85,000 Ghana cedis, and is still negotiable. That one is located at a place in Kaswa called Ofanko. That
Mm,
area is there. We also have commercial plots that are also situated in Osu. We have one very close to the Tuba when you are coming towards the toll booth, situated very well, could be used for a filling station or warehouse. It's actually a 3.5 acre land, very, very large. And
mm,
that is also going for a very interesting offer. You can contact us. We also have a very wide land. It's actually a very big warehouse near the Buzia Junction. It's actually opposite the A1 bakery across the street. It's called Sakaman Junction, a very big place. We have the buildings that are there. We also have an area side. It's also sitting on a 3 acre plus and world fenced. And we are looking for an investor who wants to turn the place up, and then the leasehold will be given to the person. So these are some of the things that are there. We have properties in Dansuman as well, and very interesting for us who want to gradually get into the property acquisition. We have lands in Akoti, Senya, and actually Nyenyano, and then Kunyako, and then another one in the Kriapim Hills. And these lands are going for very, very cool plan. And what is interesting about this is that we have given you installment plan packages that will help you to be able to acquire it. You just
How
have to.
low? How low are this? As low
Yeah,
as
yeah.
how much?
They can be as low as 8,000 Ghana cedis. You can
Okay.
own a plot of land. You can
But
have
with
the
the
leisure.
monthly payment, with the
Yes,
installment plan.
yes. Installment plan, what you have to do is to pay not less than 40% of the amount as a deposit, and the rest is spread over between 6 to 12 months for you to clear. So all you have to do is to just get your 40% of the amount that has been quoted, and the prices range between 8,000 to 12,000. You can gradually become a property owner, and then we'll guide you the process of putting up your structure, and then you can be in your own house. So these are the things that our numbers are on our screen right now. You can call us, you can WhatsApp us, you can send us a message, you can send us an email, and I tell you 24/7, we'll respond to you and then make sure that we serve you just as we have been doing. We say Elsin, we help you in securing and producing wealth in a secured
Amen.
manner. So that is what we do at Elsin. We are always there to offer you the helping hand. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, our audience, for uh, making a date with us on this session as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ima, for the insightful discussion. And again, to our listeners, thank you very much. We are part of the Elson family, and we hope that this introductory
We thank them
discussion.
so much, so much, so much. The responses have been tremendous. The testimonies about how this thing has been very enlightening to them. And I hope we've been able to answer their questions. Any other questions can be sent to us, and in due course, we'll make sure we address them. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, and bye for
So
now.
if you also have maybe some other interesting topic you want us to pick up, just send us a message, and of course we're going to discuss that as well. And then of course, if you have any property needs, you can contact Elson, and then they will help you. Thank you again for listening, and then we'll come your way another time with another exciting topic. And I just say thank you, and then I think
Thank you,
we
Doc.
got to
Thank
leave
you
it
so
here.
much. Thank you. Bye for now.
Okay, bye for now. Bye.